Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, which is focused on the research study on technology horizon scanning. This study was undertaken as a pilot to test the use of horizon scanning techniques to understand the latest on various technologies that are relevant to the European border and coast guard community. So if I just move on to the next slide, in this webinar today, we will cover a bit of project context, followed by the kind of core scope and objectives that we had during the study. We'll then cover some of the methodology that was followed and the way we developed the ontology. We'll then go on to the various project outputs and reports that have been shared as an outcome from the study. The next three sections, or rather two sections, will then focus on doing a bit of a deep dive on the key enabling technologies that were shortlisted and some of the trends that were reported pertaining to those technologies. And we'll do a bit of an extended deep dive into extended reality, its future state and its implications, which was a detailed report. And finally, we'll close off with key takeaways from the study. So if I just move on to the next slide. So Frontex, obviously, in its role, supports EU member states and Schengen associated countries in the management of EU external borders and, of course, the fight against cross-border crime, and has a very important role to play within this community. Now, one of the things that is very apt and very important for this particular reason is the access and availability to emerging technologies. As we know, there are so many different types of technologies, as we'll speak about a little later in this webinar, which are coming to the fray and which will bring a lot of value. And Frontex, in their role, obviously require constant access to the latest in terms of these technologies and their applicability in the context of Frontex, especially in the context of border control, right? This is also very relevant from the perspective of the fact that Frontex is also part of the EU Innovation Hub, which is a collective of various innovation labs who are looking at technologies, who are looking at future concepts that will be most relevant to the Justice and Home Affairs community, right? And in the context of the EU Innovation Hub and also the activities of Frontex, is which this particular study was carried out, which focused on future enabling technologies, what are the trends within those technologies, and really how Frontex can benefit from these. If I move on to the next slide then, so just to talk a little bit about the objectives and scope of the Technology Horizon Scanning study. This study had primarily three key objectives. One was to understand more about emerging technologies and their trends, specifically those that impact the border security space. Secondly is to demonstrate the utilization of this Technology Horizon Scanning concept really within the context of Frontex and how it can be leveraged for Frontex. And the third objective really was to kind of provide foresight and to really look at how, you know, some of the constant reporting that can be done on these technologies and see how they can bring value in this context. And the scope of the study really kind of includes, I suppose, three key elements. One is to shortlist the key enabling technologies that will bring most value to Frontex. Two was to then define an ontology as to how those technologies or how the sensing or the scanning of the information, the latest information pertaining to those technologies will work. And three, really analyze the shortlisted technologies by way of monthly reports and deep dive reports on specific topics. So with that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Ellie, who is going to take us through the methodology and a bit of a deep dive into those key technologies and what we found through the horizon scanning process. Ellie?
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk a little bit about our methodology for this engagement and study. The goal, again, was to use the research service on technology horizon scanning. So during this engagement, subject matter experts and Frontex used the AI-based Sensing Bridge platform to sense over 200,000 data sources to continuously scout across both KETs, or key emerging technologies, and Frontex mission areas to surface key technology trends, latest developments, challenges, gaps, and potential needs. So our first step was understanding the mission. Our team met with the Frontex team to develop a series of workshops where we shortlisted KETs for tracking in the platform. From there, we then created an ontology, which is basically a network of keywords that help power the Sensing Bridge platform to sense across these topic areas. We then prepared for platform deployment and our research deployment. Our next step was to align priorities. So once the platform was ready and stood up, the study leverages the Frontex platform to serve as a centralized, organized, and comprehensive source of information that enables process efficiency for market analysis, horizon scanning, and any other technology scouting efforts. Next, we have our reporting section. We used all of this great information collected both through our technology horizon scanning research and our Sensing Bridge platform to deliver 3 different report types. These included monthly reports that were delivered on technology trends on a monthly cadence. There were a total of 6, 2 quarterly reports across the engagement, and 1 larger technology horizon scan report that reported on emerging trends across XR space and future-looking trends in the space. And these all together supported Frontex mission and drove innovation. Some key outcomes from this study were not only for just research, but it provided situational awareness across every technology readiness level, as well as a comprehensive understanding of these technologies, not just on their own, but also as they sat in the regulatory space. And secondly, we equipped the Frontex team with these scanning capabilities. Continuous sensing allowed for Frontex to not only track the trends, but also provide foresight into fast-moving trends in organization, potential changes or needs that they need to stay responsive to throughout the period. Moving on to the next slide, here's an overview of our major outputs that all enabled this identifying technology trends research output. Our first are our monthly reports. These highlighted key trends within the topic areas in the platform, and they drove real-time conversations to keep Frontex responsive to a changing technology environment, especially with a lot of these key emerging technologies. Regulations, developments, and innovation change from month to month. So these reports allowed our team to stay abreast. Our next report, our quarterly reports, these were a little more analytics heavy and highlighted trend shifts for Frontex at large and allowed for this larger community knowledge transfer. And the impact was this delivery across the Frontex community that gave a larger analytical view on what is going on across these key emerging technologies. And finally, we have our large XR technology scanning report. And this provided an in-depth future-focused analysis of XR trends, opportunities, and threats. And it also provided foresight into this fast-changing space. There were a lot of commercial developments, as well as future-looking developments across the XR space that our team provided the Frontex with to maintain awareness of the landscape in the future. Now, our next slide will be diving into an overview of these technology trends at large. There were new trends each month, as well as overarching trends throughout the quarter, but our data and research all boiled up to this larger trend that we saw first, that innovation is spiking across these key emerging technologies, which is great. But we saw that alongside this innovation, there was a large spike in conversation surrounding complications or risks with these technologies. And these risks could be cybersecurity risks, or they could be public concern around the implications of these technologies, or as well, they could be a need for a new landscape, a new system to prepare for these technologies. as they really shifted the paradigm. And following these discussions of both innovations and risks, we saw an underlying push towards regulation and a need for regulatory measures. As these technologies, as previously mentioned, change the paradigm, they're pushing and changing the realm of what's possible. There was a need for regulation to ensure safe deployment and use of these technologies. Our first technology trend focused on 6G. So now we're going to get into a little more granular KET level analysis of our overarching technology trends. So our first technology trend focused on 6G research, and 6G research was very popular throughout August, and it was poised to enhance existing KETs. So near seamless connection between XR devices and the metaverse were rooted in this potential for 6G launch. Again, 6G launch isn't expected until 2030, so it is a little further down the line, but think of 6G as an enabler for existing KETs that are maybe a little closer in the technology readiness spectrum. So 6G would allow increased bandwidth and lower latency than 5G. It would allow for quicker at a moment's notice communications between XR devices, between communications devices, and overall this help to facilitate an overarching XR metaverse space. 6G also allows for hyper-realistic digital twins and to improve IoT functionality. Again, as the network becomes faster, becomes quicker, and at the edge of innovation, we are allowed for larger and more realistic digital twins or XR spaces, as well as quicker IoT and improved IoT functionality. Some potential risks surrounding this is, again, privacy and security concerns that you'll be hearing throughout this presentation. There's a large concern with deploying this new network and not knowing necessarily potential cyber security concerns or cyber risks. There's also an important risk to pay attention to, which are the shortcomings of the initial 5G launch, which resulted in lag times and cyber breaches with data. So it's important to enhance security measures across that space. And finally, in order for 6G to function and enable all of these KETs, there needs to be reliable network connection in geographically dispersed areas. So there will need to be planning and scaling up of this network. Our next technology trend focuses on AI, and specifically AI as it relates to biometrics and facial recognition technologies. So our next trend focused on AI being integrated into law enforcement and border security settings. Currently, AI is being utilized by the United States and several other countries at the border in regards to facial recognition technologies. So for example, the United States is piloting a program, taking pictures, running facial recognition technology alongside the picture and the provided ID. And this helps to prevent fraudulent documents as well as fraudulent identities coming through the border. So technologies such as this have a lot of promise in securing borders and securing border spaces. However, they also have potential risks that really echo what we're going to be hearing throughout this presentation, which is huge privacy concerns around AI and detection technologies. In Brazil, they're deploying facial recognition technologies and continuous surveillance to sense for crimes and identify any potential dangerous individuals. And this has a potential risk for over-surveillance and concern from citizens. Luckily, the European Commission has been anticipating this public pushback and concern. So they're working on regulating the AI Act to include facial recognition technologies in its scope to ensure that citizens are not over-surveilled. And finally, the last potential risk is tension between innovation and regulation as countries embrace AI for surveillance. However, there is a drawback against using this technology, both from a public stance, as well as for not using this technology in terms of other countries may be sizing up their border surveillance and their border security. And if not using this technology, there is a potential weakness at the border. Now moving on to our next trend, we have AI-powered data analysis holding the potential to advance human trafficking. So we found that AI is really promising throughout this engagement, throughout this study, and especially in helping to assist key Frontex mission areas, such as human trafficking. Some specific examples were in the realm of human trafficking and using AI-powered solution to aid in these mitigation efforts. So this includes using facial recognition technologies, as well as altering voices or appearances of human trafficking victims for their own protection. This also allows for AI-powered analytics to address human trafficking, guided by computer vision to sense and track potential trafficking victims coming in throughout the border. Again, potential risk when collecting this personal information, collecting facial likeness, etc. It's really important to make sure that the data repository is secure and that these identities are protected. Again, also when using computers, they are based on an algorithm, and there is a potential for AI bias or misidentification of trafficking perpetrators or trafficking victims. And moving on to our next trend, we have autonomous unmanned systems paired with AI advancements hold the promise for enhanced border surveillance. So this is a really overarching trend throughout the 6-month engagement. We saw a lot of developments across unmanned systems and how they directly make the realm of autonomous border surveillance closer and more possible. So our first is we saw a lot of system innovations for unmanned aerial systems, unmanned ground systems, and unmanned surface vessels throughout this engagement. The first real innovation that was notable was this unified autonomous driving capabilities. New AI technology allows for this unmanned driving systems to be more reliable than previous counterparts. So in order to be more reliable, it reduces risk for civilians around, but also allows for these vehicles to more reliably enter unsafe situations, collect surveillance, and come back. The next technology innovation are detection technologies paired with this unmanned systems. So surrounding unmanned aerial vehicles, we saw an increase in beyond line of sight technologies. So drones that are able to fly without the operator seeing the end state. So you can send drones into more dangerous environments, far geographic boundaries to survey these borderlines, these dangerous surveillance areas, and collect this intelligence using sensors, using cameras to report back what's going on in real time. And finally, there are also enhanced maritime security, which we saw due to low profile surface vessels. So these are surface vessels that are able to travel undetected and collect intelligence. All of these have the potential to help bolster Frontex's current operating model and allowing for increased safety of Frontex border guard authorities. Some potential risks, again, when using this technology is that safety and privacy considerations must be examined, especially surrounding the automatic driving vehicles. There are some concerns surrounding accuracy and making sure that all are safe when using these vehicles. The next are autonomous systems and detection technologies raise these ethical concerns, specifically around the beyond line of sight vehicles and air surveillance. Again, that concern about continuous surveillance from civilians raise a lot of ethical concerns around constant surveillance and concerns. Security risks from adversarial unmanned systems are our final risk. This is our most adversarial risk that we'll be talking about today, that these technologies, though used for benefit, can also be used by adversarial nations or entities to also be doing the same thing, acquiring intelligence and monitoring missions. Our next trend is our new advanced computing technologies revolutionize border security. So this is really echoing what we've been talking about so far, that new advanced computing allows us to push the realm of what is possible. So the first is computer vision and autonomous systems together offer additional tools to combat human trafficking, which we talked about a little before. The next is the possibility of digital twins. And digital twin technologies offer advanced insights into logistical challenges and one-to-one replicas of activities taking place. So a great example that we saw of this is the Port of Barcelona. Currently, they're using a one-to-one digital twin to monitor all potential operations, as well as looking towards potential security concerns and planning ahead. So these are great for operational planning. The last is computer vision systems that help to enhance surveillance accuracy with less machine learning required. This specifically was surrounding a new USC Berkeley innovation called MOTOP, and this allows for almost human-like vision surveillance and reporting back at the border. Some potential risks are, despite the improved operational efficiency and safety, there is still that AI bias, specifically surrounding the MOTOP surveillance. There can be confusion across peoples identified, and we just really need to consider the human in the loop importance surrounding that. And again, the privacy data, when you're collecting people's likeness, storing people's likeness, there needs to be a proper cybersecurity firewall and all cybersecurity measures in place in order to use this without causing ethical concerns. So now we're going to move on to our XR based trend, and this is going to be a little more of a extended deep dive into XR. So we both conducted XR scanning throughout our monthly and quarterly reports, as well as our technology horizon scan. And we collected a lot of information throughout the engagement and found that it is really, really prevalent throughout the KET space. So here are some overarching trends that we found throughout the engagement throughout all of our innovation, and then we'll do a deeper dive into our technology horizon scan. So our first trend that we found is increased pace of data transfer and processing speeds allow for real-time metaverse response. So as XR and the metaverse and all of these other KETs, right? So 6G is becoming more in real time. We're allowing the metaverse to become more and more realistic and allowing it to be used across a plethora of use cases. Our next is more sensors and cameras are allowed to create a more detailed XR environment. Again, making XR hyper-realistic, making the XR environments feel hyper-realistic to the user. The third technology innovation is more collaborative and interoperable XR environments. So as these bandwidths get larger, as at the border or at the time of network considerations become faster, more collaborative and interoperable XR environments become usable. So more users can use it, can share information, and incorporate it into their day-to-day lives. And the last is accurate, responsive, and interactive digital renderings and simulation of real-world objects. Think about more realistic digital twins, more realistic training simulations, and also more realistic user experiences in the metaverse. Some potential risks, and a large one, is the underdeveloped regulatory landscape. As we're creating a more realistic metaverse, a more realistic universe to operate in, there is very little regulation in this space on community guidelines, data storage, and how to keep everyone safe in this new digital space. Next is the increase of cybersecurity risks with these emerging platforms. Again, this isn't the internet. This isn't anything that we really know about so far. So there are significant increased cybersecurity risks, especially when using sensitive data in this metaverse space. So for training simulations, for example, there needs to be further research on cybersecurity risks and ways to mitigate that before uploading the sensitive data. Now we're going to move on to our focus on the extended reality future state. So all of this information can be found in our technology horizon scan. So these are some of the more near-term outlooks for the under 5 years, because this technology really operates across immediate readiness levels and future state readiness levels as it continues to develop and become present in the commercial space. So the first is more accurate and usable XR experiences due to advancements in sensors and cameras. Talked about that a little bit before. Integration of AI and XR systems to create more realistic environments and provide users with more personalized experiences. We're going to see this a little bit more, especially with the commercial release by Apple and by Meta. And as more people use this and create their own personalized worlds, we're going to see more of this AI and more of this XR integration. The next is 5G cloud computing and enabling technologies for XR allow for this faster data exchange, processing speed, more players, more sensors, more interactivity. Basically, just it makes it more usable. Cloud enabling technologies, decreased costs, and improved accessibility allow, again, for these more users to populate this environment. XR Cloud, allowing for creation and distribution of AR content. So this is a possibility to build these AR apps using the existing frameworks in the XR Cloud. And the last is homomorphic encryption in the cloud-based XR systems may act against cybersecurity threats. So this is looking in more of the near term, how do we prevent these cybersecurity threats from emerging? Now we're going to dive into a little bit more of the future state. So this is a focus on future state. So this is greater than 5 years. None of this is, on the market yet. These are all a little bit more anticipating what could come, unlike our previous near-term outlooks that looked at what will happen for commercial use and adoption of these XR and metaverse-based technologies. So the first long-term outlook is this brain-computer interfaces. So there's a screen and physical hardware replaced by a wireless brain chip or smart contact lenses to really integrate the XR experience into everyday life. Another long-term outlook is convergence of the digital, physical, and interpersonal worlds. So when you think about this, it's everything coming together to provide a more accurate, responsive, and interactive digital renderings. So the XR will become, and the metaverse will become more realistic, could become a place where people of all jobs, of all missions come together in this space for their day-to-day interactions. And the last long-term outlook is more collaborative and interoperable XR environments across organizations and platforms. So this really talks to, currently there are separate metaverse-based spaces. So think about the metaverse itself, and some other technologies and companies are working to create these metaverses. And there's also all of these platforms that already exist. So social media, social online interaction space. If there's a way to make this all interoperable for all of this data to be shared, this would create an integrative network of XR simulations and really integrate them into the day-to-day. So at large, there's 3 possible long-term outcomes for the metaverse. And think about them as different levels of integration into our future. So the first is a very kind of low level of integration. So this is a specialized platform for limited use cases. So think about the XR and XR headsets being used for specific trainings, specific digital twin spaces. The next is a handful of major players compete for this market share of this metaverse-based technology. So think of Apple having a metaverse, Meta, and having their metaverse, and they all exist separately, and people engage with the ones that they feel the most attuned to. They are not creating a unified one metaverse space. The last is that open and interoperable interface where everyone would go to experience this metaverse-based technology. Think of it as a larger one metaverse, a one area of meeting, and that's the last most integrated long-term outcome. So now that we focus on near-term and long-term outcomes, we're going to talk a little bit more about how this technology could help directly in the Border Guard Authority Frontex space. So there's 2 larger XR focuses, both for XR training and just XR technologies in general. So XR training could decrease operational risks and costs and improve personnel competency. So this is creating digital twin spaces, training search and rescue missions, or any other operations that are a little too dangerous to do live in the field. Also, while doing these training experiences, there's an opportunity to measure officers' training performance and also create interactive language training models to help gear up border guards for different services across countries. And finally, improve quality of trainings. Instead of simulating actions, you could really experience it real time in the XR universe. The next are XR technologies. So these are integrating XR-based tech into the day-to-day of border guard authorities. So they help enhance situational awareness and mitigate risk for personnel operating. So this could be at command and center and in the field communications and collaboration as the XR gets faster, as real-time communications gear up. Real-time communications could take place in XR-based technologies. Real-time language translations across borders. Registering travelers, migrants, and customs declarations. This could all happen in the XR or in the metaverse for quicker processing time. The next is borderlines and markers. So surveilling, mapping borderlines and markers across. And finally is monitoring these cross-border crimes using XR-based technologies. So now we're going to think about some future state implications now that we've gone through near-term, long-term, Frontex-specific use cases. Here are some implementation considerations to think about before leaning all into XR-based trainings. The first is, again, I sound a little bit like a broken record, but privacy and regulation. Businesses and government authorities have to address privacy considerations in order to successfully build this XR or metaverse-based space. There are increased cameras and sensors to create these hyper-realistic environments. There's also sensitive data that can be stored in here. And so addressing privacy considerations are really important before deploying. The next are cybersecurity. So again, the need for a robust infrastructure to secure the communication and data stored, especially as trainings or as migrant information is stored potentially in the XR space, there has to be sufficient firewalls to protect this information. The next is legacy systems. In order to be interoperable with what is currently being used, there needs to be testing, fine-tuning, and adopting of gradually adopt these XR technologies alongside the legacy systems. So it can't be a complete phase out of the internet storage space, and then adopting these XR systems. There needs to be a gradual fade out. And the last is considering turnkey versus custom-built solutions. So turnkey solutions would be used for everybody, a more unified metaverse, and that might be a little more suitable for Frontex's general use cases versus building a custom-based XR environment. So now we're going to move on to our final points, which are our key takeaways from this engagement and from our technology trends. So at large, key emerging technologies can revolutionize and enhance border operations. Rapid developments across KETs such as 6G, AI, unmanned systems, XR, and metaverse have the potential to enhance autonomous border surveillance and training capabilities for Frontex. The next is to remain responsive in this changing environment. It's beneficial to use the structured and continuous sensing that Sensing Bridge or a like sensing organization could provide, paired with advanced aggregation methods. So this is in order to prepare for any future thinking, any future developments, any changing regulations or risks, and staying abreast with any potential innovations as well. Again, keeping up to date with changing risks associated with the new KET landscape and regulations will be essential for Frontex to adopt these key emerging technologies, specifically when considering AI integrated technologies, especially in the European Union. There are a lot of changing regulations and a lot of public discussion around the ethics surrounding these technologies. So it'll be really important that Frontex stays abreast on these new developments. And finally, advanced technology horizon scanning capabilities can provide Frontex with the foundation to make operational decisions about resource allocation, workforce development, market partnerships, risk awareness, acquisition, and many others. Assessing and evaluating large data sets of diverse sources provides organizations with confidence and also allows Frontex to monitor both what's going on in the European Union and outside, and help prepare for all potential outcomes of adopting these new key emerging technologies. And that is everything from us today. Thank you so much for joining the webinar, and I hope you all have a great day.